Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webcast, Delivering the Digital Workplace. My name is Colleen Busco. I am Marketing Manager here at MicroStrategies. It is now my pleasure to introduce your host and panelist for today's event. On our panel, we have Jim Caprero, CEO of Ireland Brook Associates, which is an executive consulting organization, Rohil Bhatia, CEO of Intelivate, with a focus on business processes, ITSM, and AI automation. We also have Lisa Kavanaugh, a transformation leader and executive here at MicroStrategies. Last but not least, we have Beverly Geiger, who is your host for today's event. Beverly is the Vice President of Solution Sales here at MicroStrategies. Beverly, with that, I will hand it over to you and get started.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Colleen, and thanks to the panel. I want to welcome everyone to this interactive webinar. User experience and the digital workplace is on every CIO's mind today, especially during the times of COVID and the impacts it's had on us. Organizations need a flexible and digital workforce that can drive new levels of employee engagement, productivity, no matter where they work. I'm going to go ahead and kick off these questions, and the first one is really around the definition. So organizations have different definitions for a digital workplace. How would each one of you define the digital workplace? So Lisa, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. If you can go ahead and kick this off, and then we'll go around to the rest of the folks.
Sure, thank you, and good morning, and thank you for having me participate today. The digital workplace, as you pointed out, Bev, there are so many different definitions, and for me, I look at it as really a natural evolution to our traditional workplace. You know, it is one that really extends the capabilities that we've been used to working through and the processes and the way that we work from the traditional space through the use of technology, you know, new processes and workflows, new operating capabilities, and one really where the culture of that organization embraces creating an environment to enable their associates to be more effective and efficient in how they choose to work wherever they choose to work. And what's interesting for me is the concept of working remotely really is not new. It actually started in the 1970s when the oil embargo hit, and many people felt as though it was too costly to drive to work, and so the concept of having a place to work from home really kicked off. But at that point in time, obviously in the 1970s, the technology really wasn't there to support that concept. So over the last 50 years, technology has really grown to enable the ability for us to work from anywhere. But I think many organizations still had a mindset that co-location was the way we wanted to work. And really with COVID, that paradigm really was, shattered. And we had to, in order to survive, we had to really embrace the technologies and really apply them in ways we hadn't before. And so I think the concept of digital workplace really is and what it means for us is really being applied very uniquely in this time.
Thank you, Lisa. How about Jim? What will pass it over?
I think Lisa made some really good points there, and it is an evolution, and people have started developing their digital workplace over time. It's just the acceleration that's taken place. And the way I look at it, and from the companies I've worked with, and I have a background of 38 years within a very large consumer product company, is the focus on digital workplace is the ability to work anywhere. And you can do that, but it's to also work easily and make it simple and not hard to do your work, and the ability to find information quickly and have it at your hands, which allows you to solve problems quickly. And most importantly, the piece you miss when you work remotely is the collaboration piece. So the ability to collaborate seamlessly with your colleagues, customers, or anyone from anywhere. So digital workplace is really something that we look at as helping us drive our business to move forward and giving the employee or the customer the ability to be successful. So that's basically from my standpoint, Beverly.
Thank you. How about yourself, Rohil?
Yep, I think both Lisa and Jim made some great points. And we need to look at digital workplace both from service receiver as well as from service provider standpoint, right? And when we talk about service receivers, we've got employees, and Lisa and Jim talked about how their experience needs to be enhanced. There needs to be a seamless interface that's available to them for anything and collaboration amongst the users. However, from the service provider side, whether it is information technology, whether this is facilities and administration and HR as well, they also need to gear up their models to be aligned to digital workplace. And that's where we're looking at visibility. That's where we're looking at a combination of physical and automation, which is the term is physical plus digital. How can we use, the cohesion of humans and automation together to build that interface for the users that we are, all looking at. So while the end user community is gearing up, and like Jim said, the pace of automation has definitely increased. When we went to have discussions with the customers, we had to sell the automation story. The appetite towards automation has certainly increased, and it's increased, many folds, right? So there is an embracing of digital that's happening. It's just that we need to look at it both from service receiver and service provider perspective. Another point to be made here is digital workplace exists in all organizations or some organizations in some form of the other. It's there in silos. Digital workplace is all about getting that all of that into a framework, making all of those components talk to each other, creating a clean system that is available across IT, across admin facilities, and all other back office functions, let's say finance, so on and so forth, and then delivering a seamless experience to a customer. And an example being work from home. So if I do not have to go to office and still have my claims processed without having to send mails to and fro, and that's seamless operations in finance, and that's what we're looking at. As a service provider, we need to create a digital workplace that supports this new culture of working from anywhere.
No, thank you, and I appreciate all those answers. And so I'm going to pick up on one of the things that you mentioned, Rohil, and that was, you said people are operating in silos, and you talked about some of the components. I'd like to tease that part out a little bit more. And so what would you say are the key components of an effective digital workplace?
So that's a pretty broad question. So let's break it into a lot of paradigms. Let's talk about IT automation, right? IT digital workplace. That would start from your monitoring layer. That is a layer that is talking to your infrastructure elements, your routers, your switches, your applications. It's proactively monitoring them on a day in, day out basis. Then you have self-healing platforms that are making sure any issues that have come, they are triaged and remediated there and there self. So it does not even have to reach the IT team. There are chatbots, there are virtual agents that are helping us enhance the employee experience. And there's a lot of alerts that are being sent from all of these tools to another layer that's called manager of manager, or a central event management, which not only just consolidates the event but provides additional artificial intelligence inputs, because it's always assessing the environment. It's got machine learning capabilities. So the AI ops engine, it basically goes and it does dynamic baselining, understands what time of the day it is, what month of the year it is, or what day of the month it is, to analyze whether this alert is critical or not, so on and so forth. Then you've got your service management and customer facing layer, which has got service portals, your service requests, service catalog, incident management, problem management, change management, right? And then you've got, parallel to that, your DevOps engine that's making sure your application delivery to infrastructure is absolutely smooth and it's all aligned. And then on top of all of that, you've got this reporting and analysis layer, which is basically putting across all of that information together into one single dashboard. So there may be 20 different platforms that an organization uses at a back end, but from a let's say CIO perspective or an IT head perspective, there is a single console that they need to look at to get all the information. Yes, there is further drill down available, but this one single console that we talk about is basically the fulcrum of digital workplace, according to me.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think, and just to add on what Rohil said there, I think the challenge, and as you look at it within your own organizations, how many different places do you need to go? How many different passwords do you need to remember to do different functions? And it simply could be, when you're looking at right now, If you work for a company that provides both a 401k as well as a medical benefits for you. And I will bet that you're logging into multiple locations to figure out how you do your work, or what your coverages are, what your claims are, how you change 401 type investments. And it's a very simplistic example, but I will tell you, for the most part, unless you're providing the technology for the people to manage their passwords, they are probably writing them down, which we don't want them to do. But they're people, and they're trying to manage this. Without technology, it becomes difficult to manage everything they're trying to do. The other point that I think Rohil made, or actually it might have been Lisa, is that there's a change that you have to have within the way you operate within a company for digital workplace, because you're asking people to change the way they do things. And you really need to have a change management strategy involved with it, because you just can't say to someone, okay, we're in a digital workplace and this is great. Without the proper training and change management, people won't know even how to address or start working through this new type of environment. They're just some observations.
Mm-hmm.
And just definitely to add to that, I think I completely agree with the points that both Rohil and Jim made. And I think when we work with our customers and we look at some of the challenges that they face in really taking on a digital workplace, and I agree that every organization has it in different parts. It's just how are they looking at it. But the core really is, from a component perspective, is the way I look at it is it's the people, because we're trying to do all of this to enable all of us to work more productively for the organization. And then, as Rohil broke down very well, there's many different technology components, and really understanding that architecture of how you're going to architect the right platform to enable those people so that they can work as effectively as possible. And then bringing in the right processes, as Jim said, that fosters the way that we work, and then really anchoring in what we're doing all of this from the perspective of what are those business drivers we're trying to achieve. So there are multiple facets, when you look at digital workplace, that really need to be taken into consideration as you look through it. There's technology is a huge enabling component, but technology alone is not going to solve it. People at the core of it, and how people navigate that technology to apply it to their jobs, is different for each of us. So
No,
Yeah.
I think there's some great.
Yeah, just another point to be made there is, interestingly, the technology adoption or digital workplace adoption or digital ways adoption on the business side has been much swifter, faster than the internal IT side. And if you look at telecom, if you look at railways, if you look at airlines, everything is digital. Everything is available on your cell phone, on your mobile devices. We're so used to managing everything from a single console, but that has not translated very well on the back office side of things. And that's what digital workplace is. It's traditionally been inwards going toward outwards, but here it's the outwards adoption has been faster, and the inwards adoption is long due.
Yeah, no, I think if I could just jump in there with that point, I just have to agree totally with Rohil. And I was lucky. The company I worked for a long time at, they tried to look at it holistically, the digital workplace, and we were a central IT organization, so we were able to really have much control over what was done. But I can see it as I go to different organizations. They are all looking to implement digital technologies within certain business areas, but there seems to be a lack of that overreaching or central look and say, how do we do this best for everyone? It's I'm gonna put digital HR, but then do I have digital supply chain? Yes, and I have work from home. So I think that's a great opportunity for the IT organizations to make sure you're really spearheading the company's digital workplace initiatives by pulling the multiple areas together and automating those so you can drive the company forward, and just not just different segments of the organization.
So
Yeah, and I agree, Jim. I know in my past when on the customer side, when you're trying to drive changes like that, and then also in helping our organizations today for our customers, HR plays a key role because any transformational type thing, and it really requires that human side and the technology side. So I know when we were driving in my past significant change initiatives, it's partnering with HR to understand, what is the impact to the human side, and how are we making sure that they're adopting the technologies in ways that we need them to, so that they can do their jobs the way they need to. So you had mentioned HR, and it made me think about that partnership and how critical it is when we talk about enablement of the digital technologies.
So as I listen to you all, there's a couple things that I think about here, because you've talked about how you have to pull a lot of different parts of the organization together to be successful. I hear there's a lot of components that make up the digital workplace, and making sure that everybody's adopting the technology. So the question I have for you all is, how do you measure success in rolling out a digital workplace initiative? So does anyone
take that one, Jim? You want me to take that one?
All right, I'm sorry. Just repeat that question. I got a little.
No, it's okay. So what I was saying was that you all talked about all the different components of rolling out a digital workplace, and the need to be able to drive it throughout the organization, pulling a lot of different divisions together, the various technologies together. So I listened to this, and so I'm wondering, how do you measure success in rolling out a digital workplace, because you have so much going on?
Okay, no, that's a great question. I mean, and the success of the digital workplace really is you're going to measure it through the user experience, on how they're utilizing the tools you're providing, and how it's making their lives better for what they have to do. And key, as Rohil laid some things out, the key is to drive the user experience where the users are saying, I enjoy doing my work. It's very simple for me to get on, do things, and proceed. And from a service provider standpoint, from Lisa, her goal in trying to measure this is, am I delivering the technology to make the user to develop a superior user experience across all areas? So when I say user experience, I'm not saying, oh, they're happy because the screens look nice. I'm saying the user experience of their ability, regardless if they're an internal or external user, to feel satisfied that they were able to get their point across and get their job done effectively, efficiently, and quickly. So I mean, that's the way I would try to look at it.
Yeah, and I think to add, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rohil.
No, so just adding to what Jim said, yes, from an end user perspective, you measure it based on CX, the customer experience, and that would translate into the adaptability, and that would again tie up to the point that Lisa raised about organizational change management. The easier and more delightful we make it for the end users, the better the adoption. But again, going back to the service provider side of things, the parameters that we need to look at is, are we increasing the accuracy of the work that we've been doing? Are we increasing the speed and the agility of our response? In terms of infrastructure, are we reducing our downtimes? In terms of serving the customers, are we more persona aware as to who this user is, and then is this user from, let's say, a point of sales user, is he a finance user, or he or she a finance user, and is my service desk or my point of contact at IT aware of that user persona? Are we able to shift left? Are we able to do, make our L2s do the jobs of L3s and L1s do the jobs of L1s? And are we able to automate a lot of what L1s are doing, which is typically catch and dispatch, to an automated engine, which is an L0? So shift left, accuracy, agility, and CX that Jim spoke about. These are the four things that I'd measure the success of digital workplace on.
And I think that is a bit of a shift too to how we've looked at kind of the service organization, to your point, Rohil, than traditionally, where we kind of measured incidents, and so how many we took, and what was the total number, and how long they have their wait time. Versus, I think with digital workplaces, the things that Rohil was mentioning, it's really a shift to incident avoidance. What were we able to automate and be more proactive with, so that the customer didn't experience, or the end user didn't experience that slowness or that downtime. And so you're not measuring, okay, how many tickets did I take? You're measuring how many I was able to avoid through automation and through technology and through the proactive nature. And I think, finding a service provider and a partner that's able to look at that holistically, where it's not just about an implementation of the technology. It's what is the time to market that someone needs to try to achieve with respect to their end users and what they're working on? What is the quality of service we're looking to drive? How do we avoid certain costs that may be out there? So it really, there's definitely different measures of success than traditionally, and it's how you're integrating that technology, as Rohil mentioned, to be able to do that.
Yeah. And one point that I missed out is visibility. Visibility is a very key criteria of a digital workplace. If it's enhanced, the digital workplace's whole fulcrum is about enhancing the visibility at each level in the value chain, so that everyone's able to make decisions better.
So as you can see the effective digital workplace here, I didn't realize a contractor was going to be working right outside my house in front of my office. So I just moved my digital workplace into another room. So I just want you to know that. So see the flexibility of digital workplace.
I was just going to say that's agility for you. That's
there you
go. Environment.
Yep. So we're like in a whole different place now.
And also another point, sorry, Beverly, to your point, another thing which is really important is the design and architecture of digital workplace should be such that it allows, waves to be delivered. You can't have, here you go, you have a digital workplace. You're going to have a phase one based on the priority of the customer or the organization, phase two, phase three. So it needs to be designed in a way that at the end of each phase, it is adding value to the digital workplace or the automation framework. And in, let's say, 1 to 2 years of time, you have a completely digital, workplace centric, organization ready. It needs to be scalable and flexible. That's another important point.
Yeah, so I'm going to actually, Rohil, I'm going to key off of that, because that was one of the other questions I wanted to ask. Because again, you've talked a lot about the different technologies and business processes and things that need to take place. Since this is a journey, right? It's on, you talk about phase one, phase two, additional phases. So since this is a transformative journey, where would somebody begin? Like, how would you recommend, like, for folks who are listening, how would they begin on a digital transformation journey around the workplace? So
the step one is to assess where we are and the level of automation that we have. We typically start with one common approach is, let's say if we talk about IT automation, the first common thing to do is to get a ticket dump of incident and service requests for last 12 months and say, what are the kind of issues that are taking up a lot of time? And then identify the areas of automation, and then understand, have we already automated it and to what extent, and then target that. In that ways, we are getting maximum output in the earlier phases, because we're targeting the areas that is taking up most of the time of our IT organization. So start off with analyzing the ticket dump, let's say for last 12 months, and see what's taking time, what's and then do a slicing and dicing of that, and not only based on the number of tickets, but let's say what are the kind of tickets that are typically causing low CSAT, right? So they may not be as impactful in the infrastructure health, but they're driving down our customer experience. So take the ticket dump, analyze it, and identify the areas of automation, and then take it from there.
Yeah, and Rohil, if I could jump in there, and that should also, when you look at that ticket dump, you should also find out what areas of not only automation, but areas of training that are needed. Because as we talked about the digital workplace, it's the automation and it's the transformation. So if you're consistently seeing tickets coming to a service desk for non-technical type questions, you see an opportunity to improve either your knowledge management systems or provide some end user training throughout the organization. Now, one of the things that's really been helpful over the past few years is the adoption of people to use the web, the internet, to find out how to fix things. So it used to be, I don't want to search for things. And I love this analogy, so I use this all the time. I often find myself trying to fix things at home, going to YouTube and just typing in, how do I bait a fish hook? Because I don't know how to do that. But I learned how to do that. And I think more and more people throughout the world use this type of searching on their own to solve things, which I couldn't say that would happen 5 years ago. 5 years ago, you wanted to speak to somebody. How do I do this? The world has changed and the adoption has changed, but we need still to provide the tools and the knowledge management to help people grow. I'm sorry to jump in there on Rohil.
We just,
I couldn't hear you, Rohil.
I'm going to jump in again, and that's a fair point, Jim. And it's only going to increase with more millennials and the next generation coming in. Is more averse to talking to get self-help rather than talking to people. So it's culturally as well, we're seeing a shift wherein it's more a machine interaction versus a person interaction that's being preferred. So there's a cultural aspect to it as well. Just wanted to weigh on to what you just said.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Having 3 millennials, I know it's for what's normal for me is not normal for them. The technology is the first place you look, and then you come to ask advice second or third.
And I agree. And I agree with starting, to Rohel's part, starting where the organization is and understanding where your gaps are from a technology perspective. Is what are your challenges? Where are your key applications that your teams use, and how well will they work from a work from anywhere environment? And what are some of the impacts that could have on them and the processes that support what they do? And then really it's like defining that path. What is, as Rohil said, what are your priorities? Clearly define those priorities for your organization. You can't boil the ocean. So where are you going to start that's going to, impact your organization as quickly as possible? And then how do you provide a scalable model to add to that? And that does involve, identifying what that roadmap is, what that vision is, what are you trying to accomplish? And also identifying key team members within the organization to champion that, including HR, as I said before. And I will say, finding the right partner, change is difficult. And I know when we work with our organizations in helping them adopt a digital workplace, we can meet them where they are. If they've already have that clear path defined, we can help them with the selection of technology or a platform or an architecture with respect to what do they need to do to scale. If they're just starting out and they don't know where to really go with it. They have different components or pockets that are siloed, as Rohil said before. We can come in and help be able to, how do you bring that together? How do you unify that? How do you go through, rationalization of tools potentially if you have too many where there may be cost savings. So really leveraging the right partner that you can trust and really help you, catapult your organization forward so that you become more effective and efficient in operating this way is really critical. And that's part of what we help our customers do every day.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point, Lisa. And I just throw on there is also one of the tools that you should really focus on first, because from an end user perspective, it'll be a base tool and you want to build on it and this is where MicroStrategies and service providers can help. Get the right collaboration tools in place. Get those and understand what you're trying to accomplish. You don't want to piecemeal together a whole bunch of collaboration tools that may or may not give you the solution you want. So you need to focus on that too, because it's not a single path, but as part of that, you really, people want to collaborate, they want to talk. If they don't have the right tools, you're going to have problems.
Yeah. Yep. And another point is any partner who's consulting you on digital workplace, a successful digital workplace for any work piece that you target should in phase 1 provide you 30 to 40% of cost savings in IT operations or any kind of operations that you're taking to digital workplace. Benchmark for that is 30 to 40% of cost saving should be delivered at the end of once you've implemented digital workplace. So that's another point to be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lisa, Jim, and Randall, for sharing your expertise with us today. We have reached the end of our time together this morning. Beverly, thank you so much for hosting and facilitating such an excellent conversation. And finally, thank you all for joining us today. From all of us at MicroStrategies, have a safe and happy weekend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.